curse of wanting to be liked, the most exquisite form of self-betrayal. A friend to all, a friend to none, spreading yourself thin, diluting your essence until there's nothing left but a pale imitation of who you pretend to be. A person too afraid to choose a side, too afraid to offend, too afraid to say no. A mask crafted from every smiling face, every eager nod, every forced laugh. But behind that mask, there's only emptiness. Because when you're everyone's ally, you're no one's equal. When you seek everyone's favor, you become a lifeless doll, dancing to the whims of others' desires, others' expectations. And yourself, you become your own worst enemy. And there is no deeper betrayal than that. A friend to all, but a stranger to the self. That's the price. An endless facade, a role played for an audience that never claps, never cheers, only demands more. More compliance, more submission, more sacrifices at the altar of acceptance. To smile when you're bleeding, to laugh when you're seething, to swallow your words, your pride, your soul, just to maintain the illusion of harmony. But peace, bought through self-immolation, is no peace at all. It's slavery. And the chains are woven from the smiles you force, from the praise you crave, from the desperate need to be wanted by people who would abandon you the moment your utility runs dry. When you wear too many faces, when you bend to every wind, there's no foundation beneath you, no spine, no core. You become a vessel, hollow and easily shattered, because people-pleasing is a sickness, a rot that spreads from your need to be validated, to be adored. You twist yourself, contort yourself, shave off parts of who you really are until you're nothing but a shell. A chameleon who blends in everywhere but belongs nowhere. A man with 1,000 colors but no substance. Trying to be everything to everyone makes you nothing at all. You want to be liked by all? Then be ready to stand alone. Because no one respects a spineless creature who serves everyone's interests but his own. You'll be the easy prey, the convenient scapegoat, the expendable friend whose loyalty is never repaid. Why? Because no one values what is universally available. No one prizes the person who can't stand for anything, who shifts with every whim, who bends like a reed to the slightest pressure. To be adored by all is to be owned by all. You become a tool, a pawn, a weakling, whose worth is measured only by your willingness to submit. People don't trust those who never draw lines. They don't trust those who say yes to everything, who never push back, never choose one path over another, because deep down, they know what you are, a deceiver, a smiling liar who promises everyone the same loyalty. But that loyalty is a lie, a loyalty that bends and shifts depending on who is looking, a loyalty that evaporates the moment it is tested. Being a friend to all makes you unreliable, unpredictable, unworthy of respect, because a man without enemies is a man without convictions. And when the storm comes, when the winds of adversity howl, you'll be the first to break, because there's nothing holding you together, no spine, no core, just a hollow shell wrapped in the approval of those who use you. But those who dare to be disliked, those who choose their enemies with intention, with purpose, they are the ones who stand tall, the ones who know who they are. They draw the line in the sand and dare others to cross it. They have substance. They have boundaries. They are the oak that bends to no storm, the iron that refuses to yield. And people, whether they love them or hate them, will always respect them. Because to be despised for who you are is infinitely better than to be adored for who you aren't. There is power in being unapologetic. There is power in choosing whom to serve and whom to oppose. Be the enemy if you must. Be the villain, the outcast, the one who stands alone. Because that solitude, it's a fortress. It's the mark of a man who chooses, a man who decides, a man who knows that the price of being truly alive is being unacceptable to some. And when you stand firm, when you refuse to bend, the world will take notice. It will challenge you, test you, try to break you. But every test passed, every betrayal endured, every enemy faced, strengthens the foundation, while those who spread themselves thin, who chase every smile, who beg for acceptance, will crumble under the weight of their own emptiness. Better to be hated for who you truly are, to be an enemy of the crowd, than to be loved for a lie. Because in the end, a friend of everyone is a traitor to himself, and there is no forgiveness for the man who betrayed his own soul. Become a nobody, an unmarked shadow slipping through the cracks of a system that's always watching, always hunting, always trying to ensnare your mind. Strip away the labels, the expectations, the roles they've thrust upon you. Because to be someone in a world of hollow identities is to be owned. To be defined is to be bound. Instead, choose obscurity. Choose emptiness. Become a blank slate, a living void that exists outside of their labels, outside of their grasp. In a society obsessed with status, with titles, with meaning, embrace the power of being unknown. Because when you're a nobody, there's no pattern to predict, no expectations to exploit, no weakness for the world to sink its claws into. And from that anonymity, nurture something they can never take. An obsessive, relentless curiosity, a hunger that consumes you, that pushes you to devour knowledge, to question every truth, to dig deep into the marrow of existence until you understand. Let curiosity become the core of your being. Not the shallow curiosity of those who seek just to know, but the ravenous desire to consume every fragment of the world's secrets, to strip away every facade until you see things clearly. Because curiosity is the antidote to their control. When you're driven not by a need to belong, but by a need to know, you become dangerous. You become unbound. But even as you explore, as you carve your own twisted path through the shadows, remain a nobody. Because nobody suspects the invisible. Nobody hunts what they can't see. And when you've shed the need for recognition, for approval, for the praise of the masses, you'll find a different kind of power. A power that doesn't shout, but echoes. A power that whispers in the void, creating ripples through silence. You will no longer seek validation. You will seek revelation. And those revelations, those epiphanies that come from seeing the world through the lens of your own curiosity, they'll become your armor. Because when you know, when you see things others can't, you are no longer a part of their game. You become the observer, the watcher, the one who moves in the dark, while the rest stumble blindly in the light. And be ruthless about who you let into that darkness. Your curiosity, your individuality, these are sacred. Protect them with a ferocity that borders on madness, because the world will send its pawns, its saboteurs, its leeches disguised as friends, lovers, allies, people who will come with warm smiles, soft words, and gentle hands, but with rotting minds. They will seek to mold you, to tame you, to turn your curiosity into compliance, your individuality into a commodity. Reject them. Cut them off with the precision of a surgeon wielding a blade. Because to let even a single soul inside who does not align with your hunger for knowledge, who does not feed your obsession with truth, is to corrupt yourself, to invite contamination into what should be a sanctuary. Surround yourself only with those who understand, those who burn with a similar fire. Not the weak-willed, not the apathetic, not the diluted. Invite only the sharpened minds, the ruthless seekers, those who see the world for what it is, a labyrinth of lies and hidden truths. People who don't just ask questions but tear through the fabric of reality to find the answers, because such people are rare. In a world where most prefer the safety of ignorance, finding another soul with that same unyielding curiosity is like finding a diamond buried in the mud. Cherish them, for these are the ones who won't drag you down, who won't smother your individuality with their limitations. They'll fuel it, ignite it, push you harder. And when you've assembled this circle, this tribe of the few, the relentless, the ones who defy, you'll find that you've created something rare, something untouchable, a force of true individuals, not followers, not clones, a group that exists not to belong, but to rebel, to exist outside of the hive mind's grasp, each member a sovereign, each one unchained by the need to conform, because the only real connection comes when those who refuse to bend meet in the middle of a chaotic world and choose voluntarily to align. No strings, no pretense, just raw, unfiltered alliance. That's where power grows. That's where empires are born. Not from a shared desire for validation, but from a shared rejection of it. But always, always, remember to remain a nobody to the world. Keep your fire hidden. Let the masses assume you're insignificant. Let them dismiss you as irrelevant. Because from that obscurity, you can watch, you can learn, you can evolve. And when you finally choose to strike, when you reveal the depth of your understanding, your strength, your vision, the world won't know what hit it. You'll be the unseen storm, the masked force that reshapes reality itself, while the rest are still trying to fit into the mold of mediocrity, society, a machine built to manufacture conformity, an assembly line where minds are molded, beliefs are shaped, and identities are erased. The goal isn't to create unique beings, but obedient cogs, interchangeable, indistinguishable, and easily replaced. Every rule, every expectation, every whispered word of advice is just a command to submit, to smooth out the jagged edges of individuality until everyone blends into a colorless monotony. Because the system despises individuality, it fears it. It fears those who stand apart, who refuse to kneel, who carve their own paths into the world. Because individuality is a threat, a force that defies the gravitational pull of society's expectations, that resists the crushing weight of the masses. Standardized thinking is the opiate of the modern world. It dulls the senses, numbs the will, and lulls people into a trance of mediocrity. A mind sedated by the need to fit in is a mind that is tamed, shackled by its own cowardice, too terrified to think for itself. To stand out is to risk the spotlight, to be scrutinized, judged, rejected. So people fall in line, adopt the same mannerisms, the same safe opinions, nod at the same empty slogans, all to be accepted by a faceless herd. But in doing so, they betray the only thing that ever truly mattered, the self, the part of them that could have defied, that could have created, that could have made the world tremble. Individuality the one trait society tries to stamp out. Because to think for yourself, to see the world clearly, is to be dangerous. The masses are governed by conformity, by the same unspoken laws of obedience that bind them in invisible chains. And so, anyone who dares to think differently is seen as a threat, because individuality is a mirror that reflects the weakness of those who submit. It shines a spotlight on the faceless, on the cowards, on those too afraid to be anything more than a shadow. When one stands out, all are forced to confront the lie they've been living, to see the bars of their own cages, and to acknowledge that the key to freedom was always in their hands, but they won't use it. Because freedom demands courage. Individuality demands defiance. And that is a price most will never pay. The system fears what it cannot control, so it convinces people that to be unique is to be wrong. That conformity is the only path to acceptance, to security, to belonging. That to be yourself is to be alien. So people cut pieces of themselves away, snip off the parts that don't fit, wrap themselves in the safe, bland colors of mediocrity. They choose to be unseen, unremarkable, insignificant. But to choose that, to choose to be less than what you could be, that is the greatest sin, the greatest betrayal. Because individuality is the only true expression of your real self. It's the essence of who you are, the spark that sets you apart from the endless sea of replicas. To kill, that is to murder your soul. Individuality isn't just a trait. It's a weapon, a blade that cuts through the fog of conformity, that disrupts the hive mind, that shatters the comfort of the masses, and those who wield it, those who dare to be different, to be authentic, to be raw in a world of masks and charades. They are the true revolutionaries, the ones who make the faceless recoil in discomfort, who turn the tides of expectation, who force society to look at itself and tremble. Because individuality is the only force that can stand against the tide of conformity and prevail. It's a war cry in the silence, a roar in the void. It's the mark of the untamed, the undomesticated, the unbroken. And that is why society tries so hard to erase it, to standardize thought, to regulate opinion, to dictate what's acceptable and what's not. It's a war on the self, a war to turn each mind into a mirror image of the last, a legion of obedient, smiling clones. But to bow to that, to surrender your uniqueness for the comfort of acceptance, that is to become a ghost, a lifeless specter drifting through a colorless world, fading into the shadows of nothingness. Because the moment you blend in, the moment you lose your edges, your flaws, your defiance, you cease to exist. Individuality is the only proof of life. To conform is to die. To think for yourself is to live. And to express that individuality in a world that wants to crush it. That is the greatest act of rebellion. To be seen as you are, to exist as you are, to stand in the light of your own creation and dare anyone to look away. That is what it means to be alive. It's not just a matter of being different. It's a matter of being whole. Because only those who refuse to be standardized can truly know themselves. Only those who defy can truly create. And only those who embrace their individuality can ever hope to leave a mark. Investment is a transaction, a trade of time, of energy, of self, a game of resources that the naive mistake for kindness. So many squander their efforts pouring into empty vessels, bleeding themselves dry in the hopes of being valued. But value has no place in a one-sided transaction. It's a debt that can never be repaid, a bottomless pit that swallows all you have to give. To invest in someone who does not reciprocate is to set fire to your own potential, to watch your ambition turn to ashes in the hands of the unworthy. So be ruthless in who you choose to give yourself to. Because every moment spent on those who do not return your effort is a moment wasted. Look at people for what they are, investments. You're building something, whether it's yourself, your goals, or your empire. And in that construction, every person who enters your life becomes a piece of that puzzle. But if they are not committed to your vision, to your elevation, then they're not just a waste. They're a liability. They will siphon off your energy, your focus, your drive, without ever adding value. And the worst part, they'll leave you empty, drained, broken, while they move on to their next unsuspecting host. Because to them, you were just a stepping stone, a convenience, and nothing more. So invest wisely. Don't waste a single breath on people who aren't willing to match your effort. Watch their actions, not their words. Words are cheap, a currency of the manipulator, the deceiver, the leech. But actions tell the truth. If they vanish when you need them, if their promises are made of air, if their presence is more burden than benefit, cut them out. Be merciless, because loyalty to the wrong people is nothing but a slow, cancerous death. It eats at your potential, corrupts your focus, and dulls your sharpness. It shackles you to the mundane when you were meant to walk with giants. And don't mistake this for some transaction of emotions. This is a contract of power. The people around you either amplify your strength or sap it. Either they elevate you or they bury you under the weight of their indifference. The ones worth investing in, they are the ones who challenge you, who sharpen your mind, who push you to be more, who set fire to your ambitions instead of dousing them with their weakness. They are the ones who add to your existence, who give as much as they take, whose presence is a catalyst for your own evolution. If they don't fit that criteria, let them burn in the cold light of their own irrelevance. The worthy will withstand the flames. The rest, let them fade. Because investment is more than just shared time or words. It's the sacrifice of self. It's the willingness to bleed for someone else's growth, knowing that they would bleed just as freely for you. It's the recognition of value, the unspoken agreement that together, you both rise higher than you ever could alone. To invest in someone who is equally invested in you is to build a fortress of shared strength. But to pour yourself into someone who won't give back is to dismantle your own foundations. It's to strip away your own power, brick by brick, and hand it to a stranger who'll abandon you the moment the winds shift. So be selective, be ruthless. Surround yourself only with those who prove their worth through action, through loyalty, through sacrifice. Those who bring fire to your flame, who build instead of break. It's not about numbers, it's about quality. A single ally who shares your intensity, your vision, your hunger for more, is worth 1,000 fair weather friends. Value those who stand with you in the storm, who fight alongside you in the dark, who strengthen your resolve instead of draining it. Because your power is finite. Don't waste it on those who won't defend it. Invest in people who challenge you, who demand excellence, who hold up a mirror to your weaknesses and force you to confront them. People who aren't afraid to call you out. push you when you falter, to rage against your mediocrity, because it's only those kinds of alliances, tempered in the fires of shared struggle, forged in the anvil of mutual respect, that create legends. That's the currency of power, reciprocated investment. Anything less is a parasite, and parasites have no place in the presence of a king. Choose wisely. Choose ruthlessly. Because time is a limited commodity, and those who drain your energy today will steal your potential tomorrow. Invest in those who make you better, stronger, unstoppable. And those who can't, let them fade into the background noise of forgotten acquaintances, while you and your chosen few rise to heights that the rest can only envy. And remember, when you build your circle, don't just look for allies. Look for mirrors, reflections of the drive and ambition that burns within. Because the right people will reflect that fire, amplify it, until together you're a force that nothing can contain. Be very careful about where you place your concern, because every ounce of energy, every bit of attention is a weapon, an investment. Most people wield it like a blunt instrument, scattering it carelessly on meaningless things, trivial worries, fleeting opinions, the hollow judgments of the unremarkable. Caring too much is lethal. It's a poison that slowly eats away at your focus, at your will, until you're left weak and drained, obsessed with battles that aren't worth fighting, and fighting for people who never deserved your loyalty. Self-sabotage is born from that disease. When your mind is occupied by every whisper, every sneer, every passing glance of disapproval, you start to shrink. You hold back, you water yourself down, and worst of all, you betray yourself, twisting and contorting your desires just to fit into the prison of their perceptions. Caring too much becomes a trap. You think it makes you strong, makes you more empathetic, more human. But what it really does is give others a map to your weaknesses. It's like handing your enemies a dagger and baring your throat, waiting for the inevitable cut. Every time you care when you shouldn't, you carve a piece out of yourself and lay it at someone else's feet. It's a slow dismemberment of your own spirit. Think twice before you give a damn, because when you start handing out your concern like a beggar tossing pennies, you bleed yourself dry. And the world, it's ravenous. It will take every drop you give. The more you care, the more it demands. There's a twisted irony to it. The less you value your own boundaries, the less the world values you. Caring too much is an open invitation for chaos. It breeds self-doubt. It fertilizes insecurity. You start questioning yourself, second-guessing every move, every thought, every breath. And suddenly you're caught in a web of your own making, paralyzed by the fear of not being good enough, of not pleasing enough. You hand over the reins of your own destiny to the faceless mob of opinion, and with every ounce of concern you waste on the unworthy, you suffocate that dark, primal part of yourself that knows what it wants. When you care too much, you lower yourself, shrink your vision, and place your self-worth on a rickety pedestal built from others' expectations. You become the puppet, the marionette, dancing to strings of approval and flattery. The people who control you don't even respect you, but you'll twist and bend and break just to win a smile, a nod, a meaningless gesture. And what's left of you at the end of it? An empty shell, a creature devoid of ambition, devoid of fire. You become a personification of regret, a slave to the whims of those who never deserved a single heartbeat of your attention. So think before you care. Measure every bit of concern like it's liquid gold. Because your energy, your attention, that is your currency, the most valuable thing you have. Every time you care too deeply, you deplete that reservoir, digging your own grave 1 inch at a time. It's not just about rationing your care, it's about defining its worth. Not everyone deserves it. Most people are undeserving. Most opinions are worthless. So weigh every ounce of concern as if you're weighing life itself, because that's exactly what you're spending. And if you throw it away frivolously, you empower the very things that enslave you. You want to avoid self-sabotage? Then starve that desperate need to be understood, to be validated, to be liked. The more you care about every slight, every criticism, the more you feed the beast of doubt that gnaws at your self-esteem. Become selective, ruthless. Calculate every investment of concern like it's a sacrifice to a dark god, because in a way, it is. Every care is a piece of your soul, a drop of your essence, and you only have so much to give. Give too freely, and you become a beggar in your own kingdom, bowing to the whims of those who revel in your uncertainty. The most dangerous people are the ones who don't need to care. The ones who choose their battles, who invest their energy like a blade wielded with precision. People who save their concern for things that matter, for their goals, for their evolution, for their dominion. And when you become that person, when you cultivate a reserve of power, of self-respect, of indifference to anything that doesn't serve you, that's when you become invincible. When your concern is earned, when your investment is calculated, you wield a strength that can't be shaken by the trivial, the mundane, the mediocre. Care about yourself first. Prioritize your vision and let the rest burn. Because self-sabotage, at its core, is misplaced care. It's the wound that festers when you waste your life on those who don't deserve it. Even the purest of minds can walk through filth without being stained. That's the paradox of power. The ability to exist within the chaos, yet remain untouched by it. To step into the den of liars, thieves, and traitors, but never let their corruption seep into your skin. Like a king walking through a ruined kingdom, knowing that dirt and decay are beneath his feet, but never beneath his dignity. It's the art of proximity without possession. That's what those who crave righteousness fail to understand. To remain untouched, to stay clean, untarnished, is the true mastery. It's easy to lock oneself away, to avoid the corrupt, the fallen, the broken, to shut your eyes and pretend that to be safe is to be strong. But safety breeds ignorance, and strength is born only in the company of shadows. Even the revered figure of Jesus, the supposed embodiment of light, sat among the sinners. He broke bread with the despised, spoke to the damned, moved among the broken, the vile, the condemned. But never once did he bend. Never once did he allow their depravity to infect his essence. He dined with sinners, but didn't sin with them. To walk through the swamp without sinking, that is true power. To be tempted and yet remain steadfast. To understand the darkness and yet keep it chained to your will. And the secret lies in this: to know the evil that surrounds you, to look it in the eye, to let it snarl and rage, and yet never let it inside. That is a force that shakes kingdoms. Power is proximity without contamination. The weak will isolate themselves, fearing the touch of corruption, fearing that exposure alone will drag them into the pit. But true strength comes from the opposite. It comes from standing at the very edge of the abyss, peering into its gaping maw, feeling its icy breath on your skin, and yet smirking. Because when you walk among the filth, when you rub shoulders with the depraved, you gain an insight into their nature. You see how they fall, why they bend, where their weaknesses hide. You can learn from their mistakes. Take their shattered pieces and build yourself a fortress. But you never become what they are. You command the rot around you, let it whisper, let it scream, let it plead, and then walk away, untouched, unchanged, unbroken. People mistake avoidance for strength. But avoidance is just fear dressed in white robes. To avoid the fallen, to shun the wicked. To close your eyes to temptation is to declare your own fragility. If you can only remain pure by running, you're not pure at all. You're just cowardly. To embrace the dark, to understand it, to walk through it, and come out whole, that is true purity. Just like the figure who sat among thieves, yet remained a king. He walked through their world, touched their lives, altered their fate, but never once allowed their sickness to stain him. That is where strength is forged. Surround yourself with the broken, the damned, the sinful. Learn their patterns, learn their vices, and learn how to build yourself beyond their reach. Because those who hide from darkness are owned by it.